but I had a loving childhood. This is a line I hear so often. Let me start again. This live, I always never know when this is going to come on. So I think now we're live. Let's just see. I love you guys. I'm so excited to sit and be with you today. Um, I just texted one of my clients. I'm like, I have to talk to my tribe today. And I was like, can I be 15 minutes late for a call? So I sent her a text. Hopefully she's cool with it. Um, so one thing I hear all the time when I have people coming into the program and or into this group, and I start to talk to people and they start telling me about their problems, and they start telling me about their relationship problems and how they're attracting men that are emotionally unavailable, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they have maybe they're reaching out to their son, they've lost connection with their kids, or perhaps they're struggling with health and weight and all the above, or maybe they have anxiety or depression. And whenever people have these repetitive patterns that are continuing, it hasn't just happened once, but it's like again and again and again. I always ask them. So for example, if you're attracting partners where the person you're dating doesn't like to communicate with you, doesn't open up, doesn't like to talk about their feelings, goes into a cave, is emotionally unavailable, doesn't express himself, I always will ask them, who was emotionally unavailable as a kid to you? What person in your life was not present for your emotions? For example, meaning when you were crying, they didn't nurture that. They maybe tried to change your feelings. They said, don't worry about it, just relax. Like, you know, no need to cry now. Crying won't do a thing. This is emotional unavailability. And so, and whenever I say this to many people coming in the program, and I see this so often, is they say, I had a good childhood. I had a good childhood. And they instantly kibosh the idea that their childhood has anything to do with it. And the problem with that statement, okay, this statement, I had a good childhood, is the very thing that is preventing you from transformation. Okay, because and I want to explain this to you. In this video, I am going to explain to you a couple things why that statement is sabotaging your life. Number one, it's creating, and two, why no matter how good your childhood was growing up, I'm going to share a personal story too. No matter how good it is, that no one is immune. No one is immune to human suffering. No one is immune to emotional pain. No one is immune to trauma. No one is immune to beliefs, having been taught beliefs that do not serve their individual self and soul, if that makes sense. Okay? So, this statement, so first of all, why is this statement so detrimental to your change, your radical transformation from every single goal that you want to bring into your life? From, every dream, every desire, every inner peace and joy and contentment. Okay, why this statement? I had a good childhood. Because anybody who says that, what they've been taught is they've been taught how to, there's emotion, that statement, and this is a statement I used to receive like from my family. Oh, the past has nothing to do with it. And it's people that tend to use that statement have a lot of emotional unavailability with themselves. That means they are not connected emotionally to themselves. Okay? And that statement, what it does, it's denying that your past still affects you. And when it comes to action in the moment, 95% of our actions in the moment are from our subconscious thought. Meaning, the time when you're like, sugar is bad for you. Drinking coffee might not be that great, but you do it despite all evidence. But you're like, it might be the one thing you're like, I can't kick this. Or maybe it's like, fuck, I love, you keep going for a Shiraz, or you keep being critical when you really want to be kind, or you're impatient all the time, but you can't figure, like, you're a parent and you're like, fuck, I can't stop being impatient. And that's because it's not enough for you to just use willpower to motivate action. That action is coming from any action, any doing is coming from a feeling. So, like, how it works is, I call it be, do, have, meaning be, do, have. You have a belief. A belief says, I should be productive, for example. And that's what you were taught. And you were taught this belief. This belief you were taught all the way back in your childhood. This belief did not come from you when you were older. The 95% of your beliefs are born into existence below the age of 6. That's why those first formative years are so important for healing. And so these beliefs that you have, I should be productive, I shouldn't be emotional, I shouldn't be sensitive, I should be responsible, people don't like needy. All these beliefs that you have that are part of your psyche come from those earliest years in your life. Okay? So when you get older and say you wake up and you're tired and you're exhausted and you get up, but you have a thought that you should be productive. But your soul doesn't want to be productive. Your soul wants to be lazy. It wants to sleep. It wants to relax. Whenever you have this battle between the mind and your heart, mind and your soul, and even some people will call it big you, that's the older you that says I should be productive, and the younger you that says I want to be lazy. I want to be lazy. Fuck. That's when people they don't understand anxiety. That's what anxiety is a disconnect between your heart and your mind. It's a battle. And in those moments, when you try to be lazy and you think you should be productive, the be, do, have, the belief, right? You have a belief, then you have the belief creates your being, your emotional state. So there might be guilt if you're lazy. There might be shame. There might be feeling not enough. There might be, especially with people with adrenal fatigue, because they're exhausted, but their minds are constantly telling them that they're not doing enough, that they should be doing more, that they should be being creative like everyone else, that they should be successful or achieving, and their body just wants to slow down. And it's a big identity loss. Because what's happening with you is these old beliefs that are no longer serving you, are trying to be transformed into beliefs that are empowering and beneficial and positive. Because, healing. And so there's a lot of shame, and when there's a lot of shame and your state is shame and guilt and not enough, then your actions are going to reflect that. Your actions are going to be addictive. Your actions are going to be You know, you might you might overwork if you have that thought, or you might underwork because you feel a whole bunch of shame. You might just be paralyzed, you might be depressed, you might, you know, you might be isolating, and then as a result what you have, so it's belief, be, do, have. And then what you have is like emotional stress, chaos, like physical imbalances, like no relationships, like no creativity. I mean, it just, so it's, so here's the problem. So when you deny that things come from childhood, but I had a good childhood, what you're doing is you're not understanding the process of like action, like you're not understanding emotional, um, you're not understanding belief systems. You're not understanding how belief systems create a feeling, create action in your life. And that every single, what you want to get in touch with is what you are believing, because that belief is going to create a feeling. Okay? So it's, if you deny, and I'm gonna do a series on this because I can't, because my girlfriend, one of my clients is, I have to I have to get on a client call, but I'm gonna do another two-part for this. So if anybody's like, first of all, like, this is the thing, that's why I tell people, you cannot solve the problem with the mind that created the problem. This mind that you have is the problem. So this is why people thinking they're going to do healing by themselves, that they're just going to get over this. Like, yes, you are your own guru. You want to be your own guru, but to get to being your own guru, to do it by yourself is impossible. It takes a community to heal. And you need an objective person to actually point out where your brain is going haywire. Okay? So when people say that, but I had a good childhood, what they're doing is somewhere in their life, they've been taught to deny their past, to deny their beliefs, to deny their feelings. Okay? This is, and they're closing off. They're closed-minded. They're being closed-minded. I came from a family. So I want to share this, and then I have to wrap it up because this is going to be a short live today. But it is so important to recognize that even if you've had a good childhood, even if you've had a loving childhood, an awesome childhood, that you can still have emotional pain, that you can still have trauma. Some people think, oh, I didn't have trauma. Like some people being sexually abused or physically abused. You don't have to have that severity of trauma to have your childhood impact your life. There is no person in the world that does not have their childhood impact their life. Your childhood is always going to impact your life, period, because that is where your beliefs come from. So, for example, I always share about the negative aspects of my childhood. My dad was strict. My dad was emotionally available. My mom's controlling. But I want to just share with you, my childhood was awesome. My sexual abuse came outside my childhood. It was from another man. And so people used to joke, we're like the Brady Bunch family, because I have a very deep connection with my brothers and my sisters. And same with my mom and my dad. My mom and I are very spiritually connected. However, where it's important to know is that, say, for example, when you were growing up and your mom was tired, and that day as a kid you were really, really needy, and you wanted your mom to, say, stay in bed with you and just be there with you, and your mom was exhausted and didn't want to and needed to take care of herself. So if she said no to you, you might, even a little kid can take that no as like, oh, it's a rejection. She doesn't love me. She's not here for me. She doesn't want me. And for the rest of their life, they can believe that they're not lovable. They're not lovable. They're not, I mean, tell me if you're on this call, tell me tell me, do you feel that your childhood has impacted your life? And where? What do you feel is one of those things? Pop a comment in the chat. I want to know. So you could have it where you actually ask your parents for Rice Krispie squares and they're like, or like Fruit Loops, and they say no, you can't have it, you know? And for the rest of your life you believe, I can never have what I want. I can never have what I want. I never get what I want. You know? This is the kind of thing. You could have it where a sibling, for example, I'm just going to go through just different examples. You could have a sibling where you are the first child, then all of a sudden the second child is born. The birth order in a family determines your personality. You are born into this birth order, and the first child is always going to be way more rigid. I always call the first one a little bit more responsible, respectful. They follow the rules. They don't jaywalk, not all the time. But there tend to be more of the high achievers because the first child, there is more pressure on the first child. There is more, the parents are new to this, they're more strict. The second child coming in, they usually are the rebels in the family because they always feel the emotional dissonance in the family, right? They pick it up. And it's so important to know that even if you were a first child and then the second child's born, there can, even in a loving family, you can feel a sense of loss and abandonment because you used to get all the attention, now you don't get all the attention, right? It can even be, so if anyone's on the call, I love you guys. Thanks for jumping on. We're talking about people saying, but I had a good childhood. And I'm saying there is no way, no one in the world is immune to emotional pain and trauma and beliefs that come from the childhood. That is what creates you. Okay? The same thing. I'll give you another example. My dad, super competitive. You are going to adopt the beliefs of your parents. Okay? So even your mom, when you are born in utero, you are taking on her beliefs. You are taking on her fears. You lived in her body for 9 months. Okay? A lot of the trauma that I had and the fears was my mom's fears, distrust of men, fear of something bad happening. Sometimes when I go back and I try to heal these wounds, I can't even remember what the memory is. All I know is that I feel deeply fearful and afraid. So you are taking that on. And it even is when, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Your fears. So if your parents, for example, are very frugal, then you're going to take on the belief that you should be frugal. But maybe in your life, you're not a person that needs to be frugal. Maybe you're a person that wants to take risks, that wants to invest in, I was like that. I want to invest in programs. I want to jump. I want to leap. I want to have fun, this kind of thing. And I had these beliefs of my mom in me that says, that's irresponsible. That's not good, blah, blah, blah. So it took me to invest even in this program that I did at one point. I had to overcome the beliefs of my mom saying, oh, that's irresponsible. You're a failure. You're this, blah, blah, blah. Because I realized that I'm not my mother. I'm not my mother. And I had to find out who I was. I had to find out what was right for me. Maybe and that frugality was keeping me poor. The same thing with parents. My dad was super competitive. My dad always had to do. It was great growing up because this is the thing. If anyone's had competitive or strict parents, it can be really great because it teaches you to be respectful, to be kind, and to be loving. And, strict parents usually create really great kids and really kind and nice kids. But it also creates kids where it's never enough. You're really hard on yourself and there's no limit to enough. Like even when you do something, it's like there's still another thing ahead of you. It's like you're chasing, it's like you're constantly chasing the carrot of like doing. It's like endless. Like how do you know when is enough? Especially when you come from high achieving parents. So that's the thing about these belief systems in families. They can create pros. There's pros to that. Like competitive parents made me driven. It actually made me so resilient that it caused my alcohol addiction. That actual high achieving self belief caused my addiction because it was so extreme that I had to do so much to be enough that it made me drink. And then at the same time, that that resilience and competitive and that drive I learned as a kid also was the very thing that healed my alcohol addiction, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without that drive, that relentlessness to never give up. So I gotta go because I gotta be on a call with a client that I put off for this call, but I love you guys. I'm gonna do a second part to this video. But everything goes back to childhood. This is what I got to tell you. Every single fucking thing. So if you're dealing with somebody looks at you the wrong way today, somebody says something you don't like, you have this, all of a sudden, if somebody rips you off or takes advantage of you, every single experience goes back to the childhood. And that to free yourself, you need to dive deep and figure out what that was. If you're betrayed today, you need to ask yourself, when was I betrayed as a child? I love you. If you need help, don't do this alone. I have a whole team of like wise women that hold your hand and support you through this process. Book a breakthrough call with me and we'll figure out where you are, where you're stuck, and we'll get back. We'll connect it back to the original pain of where all your stuckness is coming from. I love you guys.